Ted Cruz was front and center on the talk show The View, which aired Monday. Topics ran the gamut from inflation to the legitimacy of the 2020 election, and even his attitude toward former President Donald Trump. Conservative host Ana Navarro pressed the Republican senator from Texas on his seeming change of heart.
I frankly don't know how you get over your wife being called ugly. I don't know how you get over those kind of calumnies against your father. But you obviously have gotten over it. Today you sing a very different tune. So tell us, were you lying then or are you lying now?
Yeah, that's a loaded question there. Look,
I think a lot of people have the same question. It's a very different Ted Cruz that we're seeing. We are. I mean, would you not agree that that's very different Ted Cruz than today's Ted Cruz?
What I would say is this. In 2016, we had a primary where Donald Trump and I beat the living crap out of each other. I'll tell you, Heidi laughed when he said that. My father laughed. By the way, my dad didn't just kill Kennedy. He's got Jimmy Hoffa buried in the backyard. It was idiotic.
Cruz seemed to take the interview in stride as the host didn't pull any punches. Even members of the audience took the opportunity to heckle him. Here's a bit more.
It's the most money in history we've ever taken in. The problem is we spent nearly $7 trillion, and that's what
we do cover climate here, guys. We do cover climate.
Ladies, excuse us. Let us do our job. Let us do our job. We hear what you have to say, but you gotta go. Here's the thing. We may not like when Republicans win, but we don't go and we don't storm. We don't try to change, but we'll go to court. We don't do that.
Did I miss an entire year of Antifa riots where cities across this country were burning and police cars were being firebombed?
I guess you did.
Your position is the left doesn't engage in violence? Really? So Joe Biden claims
you just said we don't scream at each other, right? Or is it just you that gets to scream?
Okay, no, I agree.
Okay, then lower your voice because we are very close.
So right off the top, I got to say, the hecklers, I think, were heckling the panel for not talking about climate change enough. Those were climate protesters, not Ted Cruz protesters.
Don't they have a painting to throw soup at or something?
Yeah, then I support them in doing that as well. But so that let's take that separate and apart from the Ted Cruz issue. What do you make of the back and forth about the 2020 election being stolen, where Ted Cruz says, basically deflects from weighing in on the appropriateness of 1/6 and instead says, well, you guys support violence because there were Antifa
He does the deflection that I see Republicans, some Republicans do so much, where they say, yes, Joe Biden is the president. And they say, but do you think he won the election? And say, Joe Biden is the president.
Right.
It was just a kind of, you're not admitting that he won, you're kind of saying that he, like, in some kind of brute force way, he,
stole it.
Well, right, I guess that would be the implication if he didn't win legitimately. And we didn't play it. Whoopi does press him on that, but then she says that she thinks the other election was stolen.
Yeah, this
so
whole
then she just
was a
totally loses the, well, it's a segment of The View, of course.
Well, it doesn't have
she
to be
loses
that
the moral
way.
high ground because then she suggests that there was something nefarious about the previous election.
They're making staffing choices, and those staffing choices are creating these kinds of segments. I do appreciate that the addition of Alyssa there in the right seat. She did, I think, show grace in saying that she had to have a kind of reckoning. And, when Donald Trump was encouraging people to storm the Capitol and kill her former, and attack her former boss, that was a come to Jesus moment for her. And frankly, she attracted some ire from the other liberals on the panel for even having that amount of grace. Whoopi Goldberg didn't. And she also didn't respond, I think, as well as she should have to Ted Cruz, which is to say, you don't have to like the George Floyd protest. The George Floyd protest happened prior to the election, and were not about Democrats being bad about the outcome of an election.
Whoa.
They were a complete separate entity. So if the conversation is about what side steals the election or what side claims to have elections stolen, go ahead, talk about Hillary Clinton and Karine Jean-Pierre having said that they thought that earlier elections, the year 2000 and 2016 were stolen. Make that argument. You don't get to say some other stuff happened over here that was Democrat aligned, and therefore it was okay for Donald Trump to actively encourage people to go and storm the Capitol.
Okay, I agree with that. Yeah, they're not exactly equivalent things, or they weren't
they're not all equivalent things.
They're not over equivalent issues, but I mean, I do take his point that there was looting and rioting and burning of cities. That has nothing to do with election interference. It has nothing to do with elections.
So it's not relevant. I could sit here and say conservatives killed 11 Jewish people at this Tree of Life synagogue. Republicans endorse violence. That's not fair either. The conversation is about election stealing and the fact that Republicans aren't willing to look. It's easy at this point. Say, look, there were There were moments in the wake of the election where Donald Trump was making representations that confused a lot of the Republican Party. We wanted to make sure that everything was handled accordingly before we conceded the race, given how important it is presidential elections are. And now Joe Biden is the president of the United States of America. You don't have to die on this hill, but they're choosing to die on this hill. The problem is that people like Whoopi Goldberg won't also make the concessions that different kinds of statements have been made by people like Hillary Clinton in the past that muddle the issue, and that we should be talking about specific events like Trump calling the Georgia Secretary of State to try to get him to not to certify the election and not use broad generalized terms like stolen election.
I make no excuses for January 6th, including the behavior of the people there, but I also not for people who set fires to things.
Right, and I'm not for murdering a bunch of Jewish people in a synagogue, but none of these things are related to each other. But the view got spicy on this episode. Apparently not enough for Trump, who thought co-host of the show and the one-time communications director, Alyssa Farah Griffin, should have defended him more.
Well, he took to his social media platform, Truth Social, to rant about Farah Griffin, calling for her to be fired from the network. In his post, he said, quote, Alyssa Farah totally misrepresented her true feelings about me and the Trump administration in order to get her job at ratings disaster CNN and a seat with the low IQ people at The View. ABC hired Farah Griffin to replace former co-host and also a Trump critic, Meghan McCain. Alyssa also guest hosted Rising a few times at one point. Yeah, but I think like she's made her feelings pretty clear that yes, she obviously worked in the Trump White House. And also it's weird to take the position that if you're an anti-Trump person, you should want the Trump White House in some to be staffed by people who are not like
yes men,
absolutely devoted yes men, and that was I think characterizes Alyssa. And then she, when it came to that horrific end where there was no way to continue to justify what was going on, she exited before that, or it became more vocal about how unconscionable it was, and that seems perfectly justified to me. I feel similarly. So.
Yeah, I think that she's doing a good job in that chair. It's a hard seat to occupy.
It is a hard seat.
I know the minority on that.
Friends with Meghan a little bit, and she had a lot of. I thought Meghan did a actually really good job of representing a actual conservative point of view, and I mean she kept getting talked over and yelled at by the rest of them.
Yeah, well, much more so than Navarro, who I got to say is one of these never Trump Republicans.
She's not a Republican.
Who was there to make Democrats feel good, but doesn't actually reflect the views of anybody who's not a Republican.
Does not represent anyone at all.
Right,
so.
right.
Good on I guess Ted Cruz for giving it the old college try. It's hard. It is hard to be in an environment where you're sitting at a table with like 5 other people and 4 of them are just yelling at you, and the other is kind of actually politely and civilly trying to engage you and have some disagreements with you. So
yeah, I mean,
best.
They should inject a little balance to that table by getting a leftist, and you might see some ally. Farah might see an ally on the left.
Brianna just always auditioning for The View.
Always be closing.
I hope you make it, and then you can have me on, and then we can continue this epic feud.
It's a deal.
Tomorrow on Rising, we'll have more vigorous debate that you all love so much, as do we.
As do we. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts, and we're now available on Roku and other streaming platforms. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.